Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Book Trek 2025, the search for Book Trek. This is a BookTube event created by Vin at Revenant Reads. He has assembled a valiant bridge crew of other BookTubers to talk about Star Trek all summer long. A season that most of our co-hosts associate with Star Trek. I certainly do. And not just because I spent a whole summer watching Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, endlessly in the movie theaters. I went to every showing. I went to every showing the whole time that was in the movie theater in the town where I was. And not just because the theater was air conditioned. Towards the end, I knew everything there was to know in that movie. And towards the end, the people who worked at the movie theater were just sort of letting me in. Oh, we're not going to charge you for this movie again. Just come in and sit down. We'll charge everybody else. We won't charge you. And you're wide open all summer long as to what you want to do. I mean, you can pick any kind of iteration of Star Trek. You can range over the whole of it. There are tons of books to pick from. And I've chosen a concentration of my own for Book Trek 2025, and that is Star Trek Voyager. An iteration from the real era of Star Trek, the Roddenberry era, the broader Roddenberry era. Of course, Gene Roddenberry didn't live to see Star Trek Voyager, but his ethos infuses the show. And it's the story of the USS Voyager, a Federation starship that is flung across the galaxy, 70,000 light years, in an instant. Of course, Federation technology does not allow Voyager to just get back to the Alpha Quadrant and the Federation instantly. Instead, it's going to take them a lifetime to get back, even at maximum warp, in a straight line with no detours, which, of course, wouldn't happen. I loved Voyager. I thought that was a great premise for a show. Voyager has a great core cast of characters that just gets greater as the series goes on. They actually add some characters that are really, really good and lose a couple of the characters who aren't. We get, as the show goes on, we get a child, for instance, Naomi Wildman, who was born in the Delta Quadrant and grows up on Voyager. And they got a wonderful child actress to do her, and it's really, really well done. We get a group of rescued drones, Icheb and whatnot. And we also get the quintessential rescued drone, 7 of 9, that does just a wonderful addition to the cast. And we have all sorts of other people, too. It's a really nice mix. We have the boyish ensign, Harry Kim. We have the wastrel navigator, Tom Paris, who Janeway recruits from prison at the beginning of the show. We have Chakotay, her first officer, who was a Maquis leader. He was the leader of a group of terrorists fighting against the Federation. They also are flung into the Delta Quadrant, and Janeway decides right away that there's no way this will work with 2 crews. We have to be 1 Starfleet crew, and as a gesture to show that, I will make Chakotay my first officer. There's Lieutenant Commander Tuvok, a 100-plus-year-old Vulcan who remembers Spock and Kirk and Sulu, and who was in his second Starfleet career as Voyager's tactical officer and Janeway's oldest and best friend. There's B'Elanna Torres, half Klingon, half human. The captain of engineering. There's Mr. Neelix, a Delta Quadrant inhabitant that they meet when they first get there, who decides to just throw in his lot with Voyager and become, I don't know, a cook, a morale officer, just general doer of friendly things. The character who in the course of Voyager says what was one of its most mocked lines ever when he tells another character, "It's nice to be nice." Nevertheless, this crew is complemented by Voyager's emergency medical hologram. By the time Voyager is constructed as a starship, starships come with a hologram and holo emitters in sickbay, so that the technology that is familiar to Star Trek viewers from the holodeck, where characters are made of kind of solidified light and can interact physically with normal human beings, that technology is harnessed in sickbay to make a holographic doctor who can act as a supplement if an extra pair of hands is needed or if the doctor is on an away mission or whatnot. Voyager's actual chief medical officer is killed in the shockwave that sends them to the Delta Quadrant. So they activate the emergency medical holograph, and he just stays that way. He just stays activated the whole time. Wonderfully, wonderfully portrayed by Roberto Picardo. And that's the crew of Voyager, more or less. We learned some other people. There are a few additions here and there. And The crew and their personal interactions, what they think of each other, is on my mind because in addition to reading for Book Trek 2025, I am writing a Voyager story for Book Trek. It's going to go. I have all summer to do it, so I've taken a few days off from chapters, but I know exactly what I want to do. I know exactly where each footstep is going to land. I should put up another chapter of that. I'm putting up the chapters on my literary blog, Steve Reads, which is linked down below if you want to subscribe. It's $5 a month. I have a lot of fun. There's a lot of reading material there. Of course, the Voyager stories are not behind a paywall, right? Because it's not my property. so the Voyager stories are not behind a paywall. They're those you can read without subscribing. Although I encourage you to subscribe and save me from a lifetime of drudgery in the box factory. But those personalities are of deep interest to me. Once you start to write them, oh my, then you suddenly realize how much you haven't thought. What kinds of things you haven't thought about. What does so-and-so think of so-and-so? Have these two characters in this cast ever spoken on camera in the course of the show's 7 seasons? Now, the reason why they might not have might be entirely real world. It might be that the two actors hated each other, and the writers knew that, and so didn't give them any time together. But one way or another, the show has those kind of blind spots. There are characters who, in the course of 7 seasons, have barely spoken to each other on camera. And when you're writing a story, you suddenly become aware of that in a way that maybe you don't when you're watching. So the backstories and personalities of the crew were of intense interest to me. So I reread a Voyager novel last night that centers on that. I reread Pathways by Jerry Taylor, in which the bulk of the command crew of Voyager is trapped on a concentration camp planet, a bleak place. Janeway and the Doctor are on Voyager trying to find them and rescue them, but they are on this brutal world, and as a way to pass the time, they each tell their own stories. And I mean, Kes isn't there, but she's in flashbacks in a lot of the stories, and Jerry Taylor is a boring writer who clearly thinks that just making a nice, cozy, comfortable narrative collection of stories, of personal histories, and what these little fights that I had with the people in my life and these little obstacles that I overcome to get to Starfleet or to get out of Starfleet, Jerry Taylor clearly thinks that is all that's necessary. You need more than that. There's way too little in this book of the attempts to rescue the crew. There is an attempt for the crew to rescue themselves. It doesn't feel dramatic ever. This is way too long and way too stodgy. And really, probably, dramatically speaking, couldn't have worked anyway. Its entire structure is characters just talking about themselves to each other. That's the governing superstructure of this book is conversational rather than action or plot. There is no plot. The plot, basically, if you want to find one, if you want to hunt around for one in this book, the plot is, will Janeway rescue these people or will she not? And you already know the answer to that. So, how interested are you in Chakotay's stories from Chakotay's past? How interested are you in Harry Kim's childhood? There's only one circumstance under which I would be interested in those stories, to say nothing of 7 of 9. And that would be if everybody's narrative voice for telling their stories was radically different, even to the point of unreliable narration. And that absolutely does not happen here. Every character sounds exactly the same here. Nothing is left to the reader's imagination. The reader is never trusted to put 2 and 2 together at any point, ever. A character feels sad because something makes them sad, and I will now tell you what that something is, and then I will explain to you why that would make them sad. When no credit given to the reader at all, not at all. Why on earth would stories from his past told by Neelix sound the same as stories from his past told by Tuvok? Why would they sound the same? Much less indistinguishable. So my Voyager reading last night was a little bit dull. A little bit of a dud for Book Trek. I'm not expecting miracles from Voyager novels, and I'm not sure that I'm only going to read Voyager novels for Book Trek 2025. In fact, this left such a blah taste in my mouth. This is the second time I've read this thing. And the second time did not improve it. it left such a taste in my mouth that I may read something else, not Voyager, for my next book. There was only one positive. There's only one upside to this. I'm sure that Jerry Taylor's never going to see this video, so that's okay. I don't mean to insult anyone. I know this book was popular. So obviously I'm in the minority in terms of what Jerry Taylor was doing in these pages. But the only positive thing that I got in this book is that I can do better than this. I never make any claims for my fiction writing. The only book I make claims for when it comes to fiction of mine is Troy War, where I wrote the story of the Trojan War in the form of a novel. And I don't really think I had much to do with that. I think that was bubbling unseen on deep down level. Certainly I can't write like that intentionally. Other than that, I make no great claims for my own fiction. I do it because I love it. I write it because I love it. And so far, none of it is commercially available, although a number of you have been at me about that. A number of you, especially in the last couple of years, have been at me about that. And that is, I respect that, I understand it, and I like it. If an audience is telling you we want the opportunity to buy your product, you should put your product up for sale. As simple as that. Sorry if capitalism has eaten into my soul, but that's the simple truth. Especially since most of you that have been at me about that have meant it in friendship. But anyway, leaving that part of the subject aside for the moment, the thing that I thought about most often when I was reading this book was I could do better than this. I could make these characters sound different and yet true to what we see on the screen. This book does not. So my book Trek report for today is a little bit on the downside, but there's an infinite amount of time left. So I go all summer to read Star Trek. I'm sure I will have lots of positive experiences. So I'll catch you up on the next one. Thank you, BookTube.